that one. That would work.
We all have places we go that energize our soul. Sometimes it's the destination. Sometimes it's the pursuit. It's difficult to define, but when we're there, we know it. Time speeds up, obstacles are overcome, and a surge of adrenaline excites the senses. In this episode, we'll follow collegiate bass fishing series founder Wade Middleton as he hits his home waters in Texas. This is his element.
Yeah, I can still remember to this day, I was young, about 5 years old, and I was on Lake Murray, and I cast a line out, a little red and white bobber. Got it out there, and it just kind of started wiggling, and it went down. And from that moment on, I've been addicted to getting a bite. That tick, the side of that bobber going down, the explosiveness on a bait, and I've just been addicted to fishing of all sorts, of all shapes, of all sizes ever since that moment. And I still get as excited today as that little 5-year-old kid when I get a bite. My family, especially on my dad's side, they grew up in a small rural environment in a small town called Greasy Bend right outside of Mansville, Oklahoma. My dad and mom used to love to go camp and water ski and spend time out around the lake. And I was the little kid that would run off down the bank and make jug lines and, throw long lines out, try to catch catfish. As I began to get older, I began to want to catch bass, and I began to really, watch TV, for lack of a better word. Jimmy Houston was really a huge impact and influence on my life because he was from Oklahoma, and that's where I grew up. And and he had a TV show that everybody watched, and I remember seeing him out on the water and thinking, man, I want to do that. And so really, in reality, all I wanted to do was hunt and fish. So when it came time to choose between classrooms and book work, I was that kid that just didn't show up. I failed out of school, basically. It was get a job or join the military. And I was kind of torn for a long time, didn't know what I wanted to do. And thankfully for me, I chose to join the Air Force. It was a great experience for a young man that had grown up in a small town environment. Not only did I learn discipline, I learned all types of different skills as far as communicating and teaching. And I met people from all over the world. I was stationed all over the world. I just had a phenomenal little military career there. And I remember thinking, if I ever get a chance to create a career in the outdoors, that's what I would do. And I was reading a classified ad in the back of a newspaper one time. It said, wanted part-time hunting and fishing guides. And I replied to that ad, and I got hired on to be a part-time guide at the time at the 777 Ranch outside of Hondo, Texas. And it just opened so many doors to get me down the path where I am today.
Driving through these lonely streets tears apart all my belief. Makes me feel so cold and uninspired. It's the same routine and the same old life till I still so we sleep at night. Feels like life is lost before it began. And hope there is a helping hand, guards us up and makes us stand. Us out across that great divide. So let's get up while we can. Let's get up while we can.
When I unload my boat or I'm walking down a bank, it's a new day of fishing, and it's always going to be different from the past. Whether you're tying on a bait, you're watching the herring, fly by, or another boat runs by, the sun's breaking the horizon, whatever it may be. Those are key parts to the day. When I rear back to make a cast, get the bait into the water, or I'm flipping a bush, or I'm just milling around in the boat, there's just that whole moment, the whole magic behind it, the whole memories that are created while you're doing that are awesome. But I got to tell you, that bite is still what drives me when I get that bite and I can set that hook, and I don't even care how big he is. those days when you complete that puzzle and you, for whatever period of time, it might only be for 5 minutes, it might be for the entire day, you get it dialed in, you know what those fish are doing, you know what bait, you know what color, you know the presentation to make, you know how to make that bait dance, and you get that bite after bite. I mean, and you finish that jigsaw puzzle, that's what drives me every time I go fishing. You know, I've almost fished for 50 years now, and I never thought I'd say, you know, I'd done anything for 50 years, you know, going forward, and I've been lucky and I've been blessed. I fished all over the world, and then I've competed at some of the top levels. I got into the TV media world as part of that, and been on magazine covers and done all of those things, and learned some incredible things. But somewhere along the line, something happened, and I just was so fortunate to grasp and become a part of something in the college fishing world. And it was about 15 years ago that we were sitting around at an ICAST trade show, and we started talking about, well, there's just no boats on the water with 18 to 22-year-old young men and women right now. What are we going to do as an industry? And we started talking about different things and tournaments and events, and he just said, hey, let's throw a college bass fishing tournament. Next thing I knew, I was the tournament director and the designer and the builder and the overseer to it. And I knew what I wanted to do in a tournament. I wanted the guy that finished last place to feel like his 5 days and every dime that he spent was as important as the guy who won it. Because we all know when you win or you're successful, it's word that you feel good about it. I remember those first couple of days of it just being blown away. They showed up, they said yes sir and no sir and thank you, and they were just passionate about fishing. They were up at dawn and fishing till dark in practice, and they showed up at the registration, and all of our sponsors were there, and they were just blown away. The sponsors were, about how nice and how focused they were, and I mean, and it was just, it gave me goosebumps. And at the end of that event, there's about 80 kids there. They drove away, and I don't know how many of them over the next few days either sent me a personal email or called me or whatever and said, wow, this was awesome. They hooked me, they hooked our company, they hooked everybody we worked with. These kids are proud. They represent their school, and some of them want to go on and be the next competitive, you know, champions of the industry. And we've seen it. There's so many of them out there right now that are lifting the classic trophy, that are winning, but there's just as many of them that now work in this industry. When I see Takeoff at an event, or I'm talking to these college kids at any of them, even right now, I get goosebumps to this day at Takeoff. I can shoot 1 million more TV shows, I can kill a lot of deer, I can catch a lot of bass, and nothing that I will do, nothing that our company will do will ever mean as much as that first event and everything we've done since it. I mean, that's when I'm in my element. I mean, that's where I'm a happy place, because that makes this guy that's 50 years old now, and I hope when I'm 70, go back to being that 5-year-old kid.
Each of us shares our own unique connection with the outdoors, a passion that drives us, defines us, a passion that centers us. It's where we're most at home. It's where we're in our element.